So, welcome everyone to the deep trance and the structure of compelling suggestions. It's great to see some familiar faces, one or two new ones as well. How's everyone doing? Just give me some thumbs up or a smiley face on the feed to let me know how you guys are doing. Who's excited about the content today? We're looking good? Yes? Excellent. Beautiful. Beautiful. Out of curiosity, how many of you have taken this training before, live? Were you here, anyone here on the live one previously? One or two people? All right. Anyone seen the actual videotapes? So you've got the training at home? Give me a sense of who's done that. And who's kind of brand new to this whole deep trance stuff that we'll be doing here. Just give me a big firm hands up so I can get a sense of who's here and who's doing what. Beautiful. Okay, well, welcome all of you. I shall endeavor to make it interesting, exciting, and informative our next 3 days together. What I want to do is both simplify and at the same time deepen your understanding of hypnosis, most importantly, your skills in hypnosis, right? So here's the thing. Any master in any craft will tell you that the fundamentals is where it's at. When you get the basics right, you can do anything with it. And given that we are an Ericksonian lineage, that means we have our school is come down from Erickson through various different trainers to what we're doing here. I want to really demystify that process, that style of giving suggestions, to make it a really simple, effective, and yet powerful approach to making suggestions. So here's one of the things that you can do with this now. Anyone here ever hear of these things called hypnosis scripts? Anyone ever hear something like that? A few of you, yes. You may have noticed that I have some mild dislike of those scripts, and it's not really because of the scripts themselves. There's nothing wrong with writing down words. I think words are wonderful things. Writing books is a wonderful thing. The thing I dislike about scripts is the fact that people end up reading pieces of paper whilst missing the person in front of them. If you're recording, audios for people, go ahead, make any script you want. That's absolutely no problem at all because it fits that medium. But as soon as another human being is in front of you, I think you really ought to be paying attention to that human being. And so if a script takes away from that, then I think it takes away from the hypnosis. Does that concept kind of make sense to you guys? Yeah? What I want to do here is give you the principles, the understandings of how to shape powerful, compelling suggestions so that you never need a script again. You can basically create your own, if you will, script for anything. It's more a question of understanding hypnotic processes so cleanly, so simply, that you can create a unique, bespoke hypnotic process for any situation that you come across. Does that sound in any way interesting to you guys? Right? Give me a thumbs up if we're on the same page on this one. Give me a crying face if you've walked into the wrong room and suddenly discovered that something weird's going on here. No crying faces? Oh, that's good. All right. So we need to get ourselves clear in terms of what we're trying to achieve, because hypnosis is a large field, right? Hypnosis itself is just an amplifier of experience. It makes experiences more intense, more real, more accessible. And that's a very good thing. It's going to be a very helpful thing in terms of what we're doing here today and over the next 3 days. And in order to kind of take all that's possible with hypnosis and condense it down to something useful, something practical, something that will make you a better hypnotist, we need to have a thing that we are aiming towards. And here's what I've settled down on. If you look at something like academic hypnosis, doing research about what hypnosis is, or stage hypnosis, they, believe it or not, although they don't really get along very well with each other, they actually have a very similar set of protocols, which means both a stage hypnotist and an academic is interested in phenomena. How can I get someone to do something or have some strange experience and then thereby measure how well they're responding to hypnosis or to trance, right? That's a useful approach. But I think there's something very important missing from that formula that makes us as a hypnotist, as agents of change, as people who want to help other people, as people who want to be a force for good in the world, we need something a little bit more, right? So to find out what that little more is, let's take a leaf out of Erickson's book, because we are, after all, in that history, that lineage, if you will, right? Erickson, as you know, was a psychiatrist, a psychologist who was deeply interested in helping people make personal transformations. And he had a particularly interesting view of how people make changes. In his point of view, you make a change when you learn something. So the way you are right now, all the good and all the bad, is as a result of all the lessons that you've learned over your lifetime. The good lessons are worth keeping. The lessons that no longer serve you, those need changing. And now, well, now we need to look at, how do we do that part of the process? How do you grow? How do you mature? How do you grow out of problems and into solutions? Does that concept make sense so far to you guys? Are you guys with me? Yes? Is this still sounding interesting to you? Perfect. So if the way that you are right now, both the positive and the negative, as a result of the things you've learned, then you can also learn to be different. You can learn to be the kind of person that just doesn't have the kinds of problems, limitations, etc., that you're currently dealing with, or your clients are currently dealing with. And so we need to look at what this idea of learning is. So the algorithm for change is learning. And what is the algorithm for learning? Well, I would propose learning requires two components. Component number one is some kind of an experience. Component number two is a point of view or a perspective on that experience from which you then draw the lesson. So that if you change the experience, or you change the point of view, or you change both, in any of those situations, you come out with a new learning, as a result of which you can't help but be different. You've changed. Does this make sense to you guys? Does it fit so far? Yeah? So then what we need to focus on over the next 3 days is, how do we make suggestions that are compelling, that people really want to listen to, that people are really moved by, that will either give them an experience or give them a frame of reference, a point of view on an experience, so that they either review an old experience from a different perspective or a new experience from a helpful perspective. Is this making sense, everyone? Yes? If we can offer people experiences, and if we can shape those experiences in a way that they will be perceived in a helpful manner, well, then we can craft unique learnings, which means we can help people change, which means we can get people unstuck from pretty much any scenario that they're in. So that gives us a very clear set of parameters as to what we're trying to achieve. Does that give you a sense of clarity about where we're going so far? Yes? Just give me some whys in the comment box. Beautiful. Now, in order to achieve either the creation of an experience or to shape the perspective, the lens to which we view those experiences, we're going to need some tools. And the tools of choice for us are language, hypnotic language in particular. Hypnotic language allows us to either evoke experiences or create experiences for people to have. In hypnosis, you can experience anything you wish. It's like the ultimate virtual reality generator. But not only can you have any experience you wish, you can have any experience from any perspective that you need, which means you can generate any useful learnings that you need to, either in yourself or in your clients. Now, of course, I know you're here to learn hypnosis. I know you're here to learn a particular way of looking at hypnosis that's going to make life easier for you to get the results that you want, both in your personal life, but also with the people that you want to influence around you. And as you are learning the tools of hypnosis, well, you need to realize you will be learning something new. You will be learning either old skills, old tools with a new twist, a new perspective, or maybe a brand new set of tools, which will require a brand new set of perspectives to make them functional for you. Whichever way you're learning, rest assured that those learnings mean that you are also changing. But now, because you don't exactly know what these tools are yet. You don't exactly know how these tools will allow you to influence the people around you. That means you don't exactly know yet exactly how you'll be changing over the coming 3 days, but more importantly, how those changes will begin to show up over the days, the weeks, and the months to come. You see, it's a lot like when you first learned to ride a bicycle or drive a car. If you ever learned how to drive a car or operate some similar sort of machinery, you'll have remembered that it was incredibly confusing at first. There's a lot of moving pieces. There is the gears, if you had to use gears, there's those pedals, there's the mirrors, there's signals, and let's not get started on other cars. And if you're anything like me, and the first time you found yourself on an actual road, crawling along at 2 miles an hour, it felt like you were speeding along at incredible speeds because your conscious mind could only handle so much information at a time. That's why you have an unconscious, because your unconscious can learn an incredible amount of things and detect patterns behind all the things that you're learning, so that at the end of a process of learning, you're able to do things with ease that at the beginning of the process of learning seemed tricky, difficult, challenging in some way. Which is why you can drive a car with relative ease now, as each of the individual components required to master that skill have been internalized. Now, your unconscious is a wonderful mental tool that you can rely on. And I'm not going to tell you that you have to close your eyes in order to learn how to activate that tool for yourself. Because it's as easy to go into a trance with your eyes wide open as it is to go into really deep trances with your eyes comfortably closed. And so you can decide for yourself whether it will be advantageous to you to enter a particular trance for yourself with your eyes open, or if you prefer to experience this particular learning with your eyes closed. And it's also okay to start the journey with eyes wide open, and then gradually decide that now is the time to close those eyes at any point you wish. That's the beauty of hypnosis. It's an experience generated by your unconscious, for you, designed for your learning, that meets your unique needs as a complete human being. And so, as you rest there and listen to me talk, I know that you came here with a list of wishes, desires, hopes of how you might improve your skills as a hypnotist, of what things you might learn, or what solutions you might acquire for yourself. And I'd like you to know that it's absolutely appropriate to take some time to reflect and consider on what your goals are, what your needs are, what you want to achieve, how you hope to be when we finish our time together over the next 3 days. And as your conscious mind reflects on those hopes, those dreams, those ambitions, your unconscious can do something that is far more important. Because for every conscious hope or dream or ambition, underneath it lies an unconscious need, desire, yearning, a need to grow as a human being, a yearning to access hidden reservoirs of abilities, skills, perceptions that you know intuitively you're capable of, but would like to have an adequate and comfortable access to in those parts of your life where they're especially relevant. And you know that your unconscious mind is beginning to lay the foundations for your learning, experience here. Because you begin to develop a real sense of comfort, or maybe it's refreshment, or some other enjoyable state of mind and body. Because as your mind and body connect, it's always accompanied by a pleasant internal shift of your experience. And our foundation is the most valuable part of anyone's learning process. An architect will spend weeks developing just the plans for the masterpiece there is to come. And the more adventurous, beautiful, and impressive that masterpiece is going to be, the more the architect must pay careful attention to laying the right foundation on which the masterpiece can be built. And so your unconscious can sift through your own personal experiences, a lifetime history of lessons and learnings and understandings, and bring them together as the raw materials that begin the process of building a foundation that is so solid that it will support anything you wish more than you can imagine, and all that you've really dreamt of. And you can take all the time you need to allow that assembling of individual pieces of your mind to occur. Because over the next 3 days, you will be given many opportunities to acquire experiences and perspectives around those experiences that will allow you to develop the kinds of learnings that will give you the kind of personal change that you will find satisfying and can look forward to showing up in your day-to-day behaviors within just a day or two of us finishing our time here together. Now, I don't know what your unconscious has planned for you, but I know that you're capable of learning at incredible rates and incredible depths. And that means when this whole process has completed for you, at least for this cycle, you'll know you've changed in a way that is as satisfying as it was comfortable for you. The depth and reach of that is something that you can trust your unconscious to design for you as we go through a series of exercises over the coming few days. So I don't know when you'd like to begin the process of actually experiencing the exercises on which all that will be built. But I have a sense that at some point, your unconscious mind will give you a signal that says, hey, I'm ready. I may have something to do with how your eyes open and, more importantly, how you feel inside, right? So I'd like us to get started with a simple game. We've played it plenty of times, but we might as well play it one more time, because remember, change is learning, and learning is not just an experience, but it's a perspective on experience. So you can take an old experience like the meet and greet game, where you ask someone, who are you, where are you from, what do you do, why are you here? You've done this, many times in your life before, and certainly many times in our sort of seminars before. But you could also challenge yourself to adopt a different perspective on that particular game, so that even though you don't know what it is you're learning something that can't help but change you when you're doing it. That makes sense, does it not? Give me a thumbs up or a yes if you get a sense of what we're talking about here. Yeah. So that's the exercise. Super simple. Groups of 3, right? Meet each other. Ask your classic questions. Where are you from? What do you do? Why are you here? Etc. There's a little link to a manual there if you want to just check the manual. I mean, you can remember the questions. I think they're pretty easy at this point. But the challenge for you is, can you ask the questions from a different perspective? So they don't know it's coming from a different perspective, but you know. That means you've learned something different, something new, which begins the process of opening your mind up to new experiences. Make sense? Any questions on that? In that case, 3 minutes apiece. Elizabeth, take us away. Yes. All righty, folks, let's have a look. Welcome back, everyone. If you're back, then just give me, put your cameras on, that's it. There you go, very good. Welcome back, everyone. Just another couple of moments for the groups to return. And here we are. So welcome back, folks. Was that fun? Give me a thumbs up or yes if you managed to do this old exercise with a slightly different point of view, a slightly different perspective in your mind. Just give me a thumbs up to see if you managed to do that. 1 person, 2, 3, 4. Slowly we're trickling out. 5. We're getting there. Ah, here we go. Now the signs are coming up. All right, good, excellent. So then let's see if we can start to get down this experience tunnel a little bit more, because of course we're experiencing experiences and point of view. We played the idea with a point of view a little bit. Let's flip the script a little bit and go into the idea of experiences. Has anyone here, just give me a thumbs up or a hand up, or just wave at me if you've got this. Anyone here ever have a pleasant experience? Ever happened to you? I know it sounds like a crazy thing to ask about, right? Yes, perfect. That's the perfect foundation for learning something and on which to build a kind of a personal transformation. So next exercise, super quick. It'll be just 1 minute each, 3 minutes in total. I want you to go back into your groups with the same partners. And now that you know each other a little bit, just ask them to tell you about a pleasant experience that they've had, right? So in particular, we're asking for an experience that has the following qualities. What do you like? So it's something pleasant. that also absorbs your attention, right? And then give them, you know, half a minute or so to describe it, just very bare bones. But what you're doing is you're going to listen for what kind of words are they leaning on? What kind of things are they emphasizing in the speech? You won't have a lot of time for this. So this is not a big investigation. This is about how much can you grasp in a very short period of time, and just a very quick sort of sketch, like a conversational sketch, if you will. Does that make sense to you guys? Right? Super simple. Looking for pleasant experiences. So what do you enjoy that also absorbs your attention? We're going to have those two elements, and then you're going to listen for their descriptions, going to encourage them a little bit. No more than 60 seconds. It's just super quick. Don't waste any time, because what you really want to do is listen to them talk about it and see what are they leaning on when they're describing it. Does that make sense to everyone? Yes? Super simple, right? Okay, take us away. If you're back, please go ahead and post some experiences. Just to let me know the kind of stuff that you got from your partner as we wait for the last about half of you still waiting to come back. So please go ahead and start posting some experiences whilst we're doing that. Okay, folks, welcome back. How was that? Was that fun? Interesting? Right? Anyone who gets something unexpected from their partners, like an unexpected thing that was both pleasant and absorbed attention? Anyone do that? Or were these all pretty expected experiences? If you did, please go ahead and post what kind of experiences your partners shared with you. Just give me like a 2-word summary or something like that, just to make sure we're on the same page here. Painting, that's a classic, of course. Gardening, another classic. Fishing. Baltic line dancing, that's a little bit different. You're going to enjoy a bear encounter. Wow. All right. But that was all, well, I guess pleasant it could be, as long as he wasn't, you know, too hungry. Reading in nature, that's a more classic one. Mountain biking, another one. Oh, near sheer cliffs, of course, that's excellent. Something to do with a relationship, like eating, drinking, and music in Italy. Excellent. Cool breeze, nice, simple, but straight to the point. Guitar playing, perfect. Okay, so we've got a range of experiences. So what we're going to do with this now, back to same groups. You already know what your partner likes, right? So you're going to ask your partner to close his eyes or her eyes, and then so A, B, and C. A is going to close their eyes, and then B and C are going to be both co-hypnotists, and you're going to take turns making statements about A's experience that must be true. So, for example, with painting, what things got to be true? Well, there's paint. Painting doesn't work very well without paint, right? There's going to be a brush. There's going to be a canvas, right? There's going to be materials. There's going to be something that they're looking at, either in the mind's eye or out in the physical place, right? So Harry's asking a non-specific universal stuff. Exactly, right? You're going to take educated guesses of what has to be there present, and you're going to present it in a way that the person can't argue about, even though you don't know the details of their story. Does that make sense? It's a challenge. We'll look into how to develop this challenge a bit more in time, right? We'll do 4 minutes each, so 12 minutes total, 30 minutes in total. So you all get a chance of doing this, and just take turns, right? You don't have to do it all on one person. Say something, then let the other person say something. If you can't say something, let the other person go twice if you want. It's nothing, you know, whatever is a comfortable rhythm for you guys. Just make sure you're both offering a simple description of something the other person must be experiencing. This is all about the experience that they're having. And you're going to take some educated guesses as to what must be present, and do your best to describe them in a way that is so universal that the person can't reject it. Does that make sense to you guys? Yeah? Now, whilst you're doing that, I also want you to pay attention to what statements land. How do you know, and how do you know that they're landing? So you'll say something and you'll get a reaction, and that'll make you think, oh, I think that one, they liked that one, that worked well. Or you'll say something else and you'll go, oh, I don't think they like that one as much. I want you to pay attention to how you know whether it worked better or didn't work so much, what enhanced the experience and what detracted from it. Does that concept make sense to everyone? Yes? Any questions? Right? So it's all about experiences. Have fun with this. It's a lot of fun. You'll be doing this in partner exercise. 4 minutes each, 13 minutes in total. Elizabeth, take us away. Folks, if you're back, go ahead and type up your experiences so far as we wait for the others to join us. So if you're coming back, folks, please go ahead and type up your experience so far as we're waiting for others to join us. Give a little bit of feedback here. Oh, here we go. Here's the main entrance. And here we go. Welcome back, everyone. How was that? Was that fun? Give me a thumbs up. Give me a yes in the chat box. Please go ahead and start typing up. What was your experience like? What went well, you know, etc. So a couple of questions for you. First of all, how did you find it as partners with, you know, you and your other partner giving sort of statements? Did you find it relatively easy to come up with stuff? Yes? Jeff, my chat box also keeps resetting. I have no idea why that's happening. I don't know. That must be another Zoom update. They don't always make them easier when they get updated. Yes, easy to talk to the group. That's excellent. Very good. When he was correctly guessing my experience, it engaged me deep in the conversation. This is exactly it. And we're going to get into this skill a bit more there, Peter. Stephen found it challenging. No worries. We will demystify this process for you more and more as we go along. Anyone else? Anyone else found something going on here? So let me ask you some specific questions to help out. What kinds of things? So give me an example of what was the topic, you know, like painting, whatever it might be, and what statements did you make that actually hit, that actually worked well? And then give me an example of, so just go with things that worked well for now. So give me an example of the context, what you said that worked well, and then what you saw happening that told you this worked well. They accepted this, right? So Petra, I go into my own trance to find questions, but my consciously try to consider where he might be different. Yes, we'll get into the mechanics of that very shortly. Yes, unfortunately, Mark, it looks like Zoom is resetting all the chats because I'm getting a blank chat as well when I come back, and I'm on a computer here. So we'll hopefully do our best with what we've got here, right? So go ahead and type up what context were you in, painting, running, etc. What statements did you make that landed well? And then how you knew it landed well. So Barbara has table tennis, focused on the sense of winning, competition, and got lots of nods and smiles. So nods and smiles was a good sign that that was accepted. And the sense of winning, right? Slight risk there, it paid off. What's the risk there, folks? The risk is, what if he plays table tennis but never wins? He just enjoys it, but doesn't actually win. It's a very low risk because usually, if you're going to enjoy yourself, you want to be at least winning some of the time, right? And then they're just zeroing on the portion of when they happen to win something. So it's a low risk thing, but just keep that kind of in mind, right? So then we have the bear. Noticed the bear's fur. He smiled and settled his body a bit. Perfect, Donna, that was beautifully done, right? You can't see a bear unless it's a weird, you know, Indonesian shaved bear, that it's going to have some fur. So this is something that absolutely had to be present. So very well done, a good guess there, right? And the idea of settling his body responded with more relaxation, shall we say, which gave you a good sound, a sign. Guitar playing, feeling sound, vibration, excellent. Again, you can't play the guitar without there being a sound vibration, right? Question is SI though, how do you know it landed? That's the other part of the missing equation, right? Using their own words seem to land really well. Perfect. So if you remembered what they talked about earlier, then using those words back at them is going to succeed because you know it's part of the whole thing, right? For Tom, the kinesthetic part of riding the bike on a dangerous trail, holding the handlebar so tight. Oh, where's it gone here? the feel of the seat, turning his head towards the drop-off. He would hold his head up and look down for a few seconds to respond to the question. Perfect, all right? Marco, keeping the cat, said how the cat feels and how he rests. His head went down. Perfect. Again, sign of comfort rather than discomfort, and comfort shows that the suggestion is landing. Jay said an unusual cool breeze in Arizona. Asked about the subtle differences between that breeze and other breezes. So this is knowledge you had beforehand. Here his head moved and her head moved, and she shared in the debrief that she was thinking about the answer. Perfect, right? David kept it conversational, blended in suggestions. We've got hypnotic responses. All right. What are those hypnotic responses, David? For Laura, horseback riding, feel the horse under him. Perfect. Again, you can't go horseback riding without actually having a horse and feeling it, right? There'll be a sensation of a feeling. There'll be probably something they hear about it as well, right? They hear the hoofbeats. Perfect. Led him to looking more relaxed and taking a deeper breath. Perfect. Beach, noticing the sparkle of the sun, waves, nods, and smiles. Perfect. Double-edged sword dance, said it took years to learn, and when I pointed out the idea of successful choreography happening. Okay, so the question here is, you want to put him in an actual experience. So this is basically a class of experiences. We want to put him at a time where he's actually doing the dance itself, right? And what would he have present? He'd have, of course, the sensation of the sword in his hands. If he's dancing, chances are there's music, so he'll be hearing that as well, right? If you know whether there's an audience or not, there might be an element around that. So put him in a specific moment.
Yeah, we had all that, but the element of his feeling of successfulness because he took a lot of time to get there.
Got it.
Oh,
so this is the thing. I see now. So there's an abstract concept that all this experience is still down to an idea, a concept, which is the learning process, and that's where he drew a lot of satisfaction from. Keep this in mind. We're going to work exactly towards this. He put a perspective on the experience from which a learning happened. So you've already gone 3 or 4 steps ahead, which is excellent. Thank you for that, right? And thanks for correcting me there. Okay, so let's go and switch things around a little bit now. What did you say? Give me the context again. And what did you say that didn't land so well, that missed? And what did you observe that told you that it missed? In the meantime, so David, partner entered a light trance. He commented on it. His head nods. Okay, that's, I think, that's still a positive one. A slight tension of the face. Carry on. So also please include the activity and the statement that was essentially rejected. All right. Excellent. Eyal is talking about some birds that were not there in the experience. And Eyal, how did you know that it was rejected? How did you know those birds weren't there? I'm guessing they told you afterwards. But in the moment when he said about the sound of the birds or watch those birds, did you tell?
He was.
Yeah.
Oh, he was looking. Took him out of a kind of trance. He was looking up, trying to figure out.
He's trying to figure out. She's trying to place where they would belong.
Yeah.
That told you, oh, there wasn't something here. That told you something was off there. Perfect. We'll come back to that again.
Yeah.
Thank you for that, Eyal. Excellent. Thank you.
Nice. Yeah.
What else, folks? What else took them out of it? And what did you notice? So what did you say? And what did you notice that told you that it took them out of it? It looks like some of you are typing an essay. I can see you furiously typing. All right, here you go. Michael's saying, asked about using the same problem and the word problem and suggested challenge. However, they ignored this and wanted to listen to the direction of the client saying, I'm not quite sure why we're talking about a problem, because we're just talking about an experience that they found pleasant and had absorbed their attention. So I'm not quite sure whether problem or challenge would be part of that. For Harry, when I mentioned music, I felt maybe there was no music in the choreography because there was a change in body and face. So I added, perhaps there's no music to correct it. And did he respond to it? That's the key element again, Harry, right? If he responded, you're right. If you ask him, of course, at the end, you can find out, right? That's the key. We'll start getting information back to help us start shaping our suggestions, right? So let's see if we can start to figure out what's going on here. Would like to come up and have a chat with me about what we can do with this just very basic reference point in terms of creating compelling suggestions. Just raise your hand, we'll come up and we'll have a little chat about what we've learned so far and how that's going to set the foundation for some powerful hypnosis. Dennis, let's bring Dennis forward. Hey Dennis, how's it going? You're muted, so if you could unmute yourself, please.
Okay,
there you go, perfect. Excellent.
All right, thank you.
All right, so we've collected an experience that absorbs our attention, right?
Okay.
So there's something hypnotic about that. We'll have to investigate further. And you and your partner gave descriptions of that experience, and hopefully most of those were things that you just invented that were likely to be there. And you saw that some of them made the experience more intense, and some of them took them out of the experience. Would that be fair to say?
Actually, I was late, but I can catch up.
Okay, so we'll make that presumption here. Otherwise,
Sure.
well, the conversation is going to be very one-sided here. All right. So, so when the person is being when something is creating a deeper or a deepening of the experience, right? We're going to call that a deepener. In other words, the trance is more intense. They're more absorbed by the experience, and therefore they're going to start having more access to unconscious material. So we want that. When we make statements that are true, they accept them, and that deepens the experience. When we make statements that are false, they will tend to reject them. I'll explain what I mean by that in a second. And that tends to bring them out of trance a little bit, right? The bigger the mistake, the more likely it is it pulls them out, right? So our suggestions must always be something that is true enough. And what do I mean by that? They have to be plausible, right? If they can easily go, yep, then the unconscious mind will just fill it in, and then the experience got richer. If they go like, no, that doesn't make sense, now you're inviting the critical factor to come in. And as soon as that happens, that tends to bring them out of trance a bit. Are you with me so far?
Yeah.
What can we notice when it's working? What tells us that they are going more into hypnosis, that we're getting more absorbed by the experience?
Well, I can see the reaction.
What reaction? What do you see?
Face reaction.
Face reaction like what?
Like face reaction.
Like a smile?
Yeah, smile and closing the eyes.
So closing eyes, smiling, right?
Yes.
Sometimes head nods, right? So these are a little bit more surface level in terms of more consciously done.
Yeah,
There's other things as well.
I can feel they're going deeper.
Yes,
Like,
but you see, we don't want to make this too intuitive. We actually want to be able to see actual signals that tells us this is working. So what do we look for? We look for relaxation. If their musculature is losing tension, that's usually a sign that internally there's harmony. And there's internal harmony, that means they're accepting the experience. The opposite is also true. As tension increases, unless of course the experience is about something exciting, like maybe riding a bike, that might be a slightly different version. But as a rule of thumb, as tension increases, it means that there's disharmony internally, which means they are to some degree rejecting the experience. Does that make sense? So
yeah,
things like,
may I add to for a sec?
Yes, yes.
Just one of my clients, she's going for running or something.
Yes, yes.
She's having that reaction you are explaining. Everything inside, she's not going into a trance.
Okay. This is in the exercises now, or this is a client in your office?
In my office, yeah.
Okay. So could be a number of things, right? It might be that that the running is running a pleasant experience for her.
No.
So then
no.
so there we go, right? So there's not the
Definitely
right experience to use to open trance with. So this is why we started this with two qualities we're looking for. It's got to be pleasant,
Okay.
and it's got to be something that absorbs their attention, right? That's the thing that's going to allow us to create trance experiences with them. So the simple solution there is find out what you find pleasant that absorbs your attention and go with that, right? So what we're looking for is, as a rule of thumb, the more internal harmony we create, the quote unquote deeper the trance will go. The more internal disharmony we create, the more the trance tends to be elevated or interrupted. Rule of thumb. There are ways to break this. For example, when you're doing therapeutic regressions and stuff like that, not something we'll get onto here, you are still working with disharmony, but it's still a pretty deep trance that's going on. But that's for different reasons, right? We're looking at a more sort of baseline model here. When someone's in harmony, you'll get things like physical relaxation, which means the head will start drooping, which means the musculature on the face starts sagging a bit more. You tend to get the face becoming a little bit more even as muscles relax. The expression starts evening out a little bit, right? Sometimes the skin will get very pale as blood withdraws from the surface. Sometimes the skin will get very red as blood goes towards the surfaces. Usually when it's, when someone relaxes, blood will flow more freely. Both are indications. The breathing will shift. Sometimes it increases, sometimes it decreases, usually decreases, but increase can mean there's processing going on. Doesn't necessarily mean that they're rejecting something, right? So these are good general hallmarks to look for whilst you're speaking to see, are they accepting my suggestions? Are they actually having the experience I'm suggesting? Or something being rejected by it? If you introduce something that doesn't fit the context, then you are inviting rejection, which is something we don't want to do, right? The more someone is absorbed in their trance experience, the more they'll try and accommodate even bizarre suggestions. So let me give you an example, and everyone feel free to follow along with this. Dennis, go ahead and close your eyes. If you were to go to a beautiful sandy beach somewhere on a warm sunny day, you'd notice a number of different things. There's of course the sand that has a certain kind of natural beauty, and that sand itself has a certain color. And I don't know how the sun would sparkle against that sand, but I do know that you'd feel the warmth of the sun on your skin. And perhaps you might even get a sense of a breeze, get a hint of that sea smell in the air. If you turned your head towards the ocean over there, you might notice the waves, and they come with their own kind of sound as they roll in on a very pleasant day. You can notice where the watermark is, where the waves roll in, but go no further, and then pull back out again. And above that, the sand gets progressively drier. Now, I don't know if you enjoy taking your shoes off in the sand, but if you were to do it here, you could actually feel the sand between your toes, making its unique kind of blend of friction and softness. If you turned to your right and saw an elephant staring at you, there you go. That would be quite an unusual experience. Bring yourself back. So overall, let's put the elephant aside for a second. Let's leave the elephant in another room. Was that a pleasant scenario for you?
Yeah, sure.
Right? And all the things I described were appropriate for the scene, because we set the scene ahead of time. A beach on a sandy beach on a warm day, right? Why do we do this? Because it allows me to give me plenty of scope. I know it's going to be sand because we said it's a sandy beach. I don't know the color. Was your color yellow or was it white, your sand?
Whitish.
Whitish, perfect. Because I might have gone for yellow and then I could have screwed it up, right? It's a sunny day, therefore it's a warm sunny day. So then I know it's going to be warm and it's going to be sunny, right? So I've got those things working for me. And, we've got the surf coming in, so there's sounds around that and so on. Now, what happened with the elephant, right? As soon as I introduce the elephant, it doesn't belong, right? Unless your beach was maybe on the African plains somewhere, or maybe somewhere in India, right? Where an elephant might be more relevant. Chances are it does not fit in your experience. And so your mind had to do something with it, right? And you were faced with a choice. The choice was, that's just wrong, which takes you out of it. Or it's like, what is this? I really like where I am, but this doesn't fit. So either I'm going to ignore that, or, you know what, screw it, I'll make it fit. I'll put him there, and so what? At least I carry on enjoying the beach, and he'll just be a friendly elephant. So in other words, you can accommodate the suggestion, you can ignore the suggestion, or you can reject the suggestion. Those are the three options you have available to you. Which of those three did you do? I'm guessing you were close to accommodating it because you enjoyed where you were at, but it was somewhere between accommodation and rejecting. Am I close?
Actually, it was kind of what the hell?
Yes.
Why
Surprise?
there?
Yep. And right after the what the hell, what did you do with it? Did you just find yourself relaxing back into the beach and just letting it be there? Or
yeah,
was
whatever.
so exactly. So this is what I would call accommodation, right? It doesn't belong. It shocked you. It temporarily took you out of the experience, but you didn't like leaving the experience because it was so nice. So in order to be back in the experience, you decided to accommodate, to say, what the hell, I'll accept it. And in doing so, you deepen the experience. So whenever we put something unusual in, we take a risk, but if the risk pays off, it can actually enhance the experience. But of course, if the risk doesn't pay off, it'll diminish the experience. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, I can say that I was interested why they're there.
Which is now a hallmark of you accepting a new reality has been created, and now I have to justify its presence, right? So if I'm going to create shock, I also need to create a justification for what's going on, a justification for the reality, because remember, our cardinal rule for what makes a suggestion compelling is that it's already true, right? The truer it seems, the more acceptable it becomes. The elephant at the beach did not seem true. It didn't seem so false that you would reject it entirely, at least not for you. For some people it would have been. But now you're in a limbo. So you want to be at the beach still. You still want to enjoy that. But now you need reasons for accepting the elephant there, right? So the more I get you to engage with the elephant, the more its purpose will be there. So for example, close your eyes for a second. And is the elephant still there?
Yeah, but they're strange.
Yes, of course it's strange. Now the elephant has a message that's going to help you enjoy this beach so much more. I don't know if that message is in the form of a letter, or if you actually speak words, or if it just wills you to know it. Have you discovered what it is yet?
Not yet, they're just stomping there.
And he's stomping there. Something about that stomping is giving you a message about the beach and your ability to enjoy it. I wonder what that could
It
mean.
seems they want to express something, but
Express something.
yeah.
And perhaps you can take a moment to enjoy the beach and allow your unconscious mind to think about what you'd like to express and where you'd like to express it. And as your unconscious mind does that in the back of your mind, you might find the beach becomes more vivid, pleasant, something to really capture, that's right, your attention. And your right hand doesn't need to lower any slower. That's right. Then your unconscious mind can find where that expression needs to take place. And the elephant can stomp and stomp all that it needs to get the energy of expression out, as that hand finds its own natural movement. So by the time it touches your lap, you'll get a sense of relief, like you know how, where, when to express yourself. And the beach goes back to just being pleasant and calm and soothing. The sound of the surf, the smell of the sea. And the elephant just seems to belong now because he helped make this a bit more real, did he not? Take all the time you need to absorb whatever your unconscious needs from this scenario. And only when you're ready, you'll find your eyes opening up. You'll feel refreshed, relaxed, alert. Simply fantastic. How was that? Was that interesting?
They disappeared.
The elephant disappeared?
Yeah.
Perfect. So it has now achieved its purpose.
The scene was perfectly fine.
Beautiful, right? How did that feel? Was that nice?
Yeah.
Right? And notice how the elephant, when it started stomping, and your curiosity was there. Now suddenly, now that he had a purpose, it was no longer as disruptive on your beach, was it?
Yeah.
Right? So in other words, you engaged it, it had a purpose that made it, purpose makes it true. Its presence was now necessary, therefore it was true. And so the thing that was once close to being rejected is now actually being accepted more. Plus you gain personally, because now your unconscious mind can use that as something relevant, something from which you can learn and grow. In other words, it took your perspective, took the experience of the beach and changed your perspective of that experience for some kind of beneficial learning, beneficial change. Are you with me?
Yeah, I am, but I am not quite sure what happened.
Of course you're not. And that's the beauty of this process, right?
Yeah.
Because you get to discover what it was. The way you know whether it worked or not is, did you go back to feeling good at the beach? Right? When the elephant disappeared, did that pressure you felt internally, did that disappear?
Yes.
So that tells you that your unconscious mind resolved something. And then the thing that you get to discover is how that's going to show up. Maybe it'll show up in the next hour, maybe the next day, maybe the next week. But at some point, you'll see the results of what you just did showing up in your behaviors and you'll spot it. And do you know how you'll spot it? Because you'll feel just as good as you did on that beach. Something.
But what happened to the elephants?
Was it necessary any further?
I don't know.
So that's why it went.
Okay.
Right? So let's get back to the foundations here. Number one, we want an experience. Experience become more intensified, more real whenever you present a description of the experience that is true. When you present a description of the experience that is not true, it becomes less relevant, less intense, right? Even if you take a risk and say something that's not true, the unconscious will make it true if there's enough reason, if there's not motivation for it. And when you turn something that wasn't true and makes it true, it makes the whole scenario more intense, more vivid, and more real again, right? Off the back of that, the experience alone, as soon as you shape a perspective on it, that's where changes start happening, right? So you have the experience, you have a perspective, change is natural, right? Whether the conscious mind realizes what the change is or not is not important. What matters is it's natural, and that the person then becomes curious about how does this show up in everyday life. Are you with me?
Yeah.
Any questions or comments about that?
Not right now.
Perfect. We know that the suggestion is being accepted because there's more harmony, more relaxation, more comfort, breathing changes, and so on. We know when it's being rejected because there's disharmony, there's more tension, there's more drawing back. That tells us there is a disharmony there, which means we have to justify what just was said, or we have to skip away from it so that we can go somewhere else.
Yes.
Yes.
When it's disharmony, kind of the client gets out of the trance, right?
It lessens it, and if it's a big disharmony, they may come all the way out, or they may just become less deep. So it's not always a black and white thing. It's either in or out. It's a range.
Not completely.
Sometimes it's not completely. Sometimes it's a little bit. Sometimes it's much more. In your example, it took you out a little bit.
Yeah.
But as soon as you accepted the elephant, you went back in a little deeper. It actually fractionated you in a bit deeper, right? So what makes the suggestion compelling is that it's true. The truer it is, which sounds weird to say, of course, but the more true it is, the more acceptable, the more compelling it becomes. Our job is to make suggestions that are true, that then shape point of views or perspectives from which we can learn. Those are the two things we'll do. And the next 3 days is going to be looking at what tools we have to achieve that job. Does that make sense to you?
Yes.
Beautiful. Let's release Dennis back to the wilderness. Over with the rest of you guys. Was this a useful discussion, demonstration for you all? Give me a yes, thumbs up, etc. if this was helpful to you. And if there's any questions, now is a good time to ask. No questions? All right, folks, in that case, let's take a brief break here. Oh, Pamela has a question. You snuck that one in there. Let's bring Pamela up.
Yeah, I just found that exercise that you just did quite interesting, because the the walk on the beach and everything was just really pleasant, and it was not so much physical, but an emotional experience of that. And then when you mentioned the elephant, it was suddenly a two-dimensional sketch of the elephant was there. And if an elephant can cross his eyes, it was like he's sort of saying, oh, I don't know what I'm doing here. And so then I started to shift into like an intellectual thing. And fortunately, you ended the exercise. So then I didn't have to think about that. But it might be, if something like that happens, and there's no time to deal with it, then you might sort of suggest that that whatever that information is that's coming up might come in later. I don't know.
Yes, so that intellectual component you're talking about is the critical factor acting up, trying to figure out, what do I do with this? Do I let it go? Do I ignore it? Or do something with it? Right? And so if you don't handle that, that can get someone so wound up, it takes them all the way out of trance. Or they decide, I don't care about this. I'd rather be on the beach anymore, so I'll just take the elephant the way it is. The cross-eyed, confused thing of the elephant is, as Michael Rumick correctly suggests, symbolic, right? It represents your own confusion as to what the heck that elephant is doing there. And of course, for our purposes, it was just to illustrate the idea of truth or falsehood in our suggestions. What makes a suggestion compelling is that it's true. Even the elephant that doesn't belong on the beach becomes more compelling as soon as its purpose there becomes more true. And in Dennis's case, that truth came through in terms of the message that it had for him. Now it had a purpose. Purpose is always true. And in discovering its purpose, it becomes more acceptable. The more you accepted it, the more it has a chance to transform it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Thanks.
Thank you for that. Let's release Pamela again. And Clay's saying, a missuggestion can be rejected, accommodated, or accepted, right? If it's accepted, it's just straight out, of course it's there. It makes total sense for it to be there. And then the unconscious mind will start backwards rationalizing why it's there. Accommodated means it doesn't belong there, but I'm going to accept it because I'd rather not lose the rest of this trance, which is so pleasant. So I'll just let it be there as a weird thing. But then in order to go from accommodated to accepted, we've got to give it a reason to be there, right? That makes it more true. Its presence becomes true then. And then, of course, if it's rejected outhand, then you either have to delete it, move on from it, or give it a really big reason for it to be there. So they go back to wanting to accommodate it and then ultimately accepting it. Does that make sense to everyone? Yes? But of course, let's go back to the basics again. We've just been starting to shape experiences, and already you can see how quickly we can turn those experiences towards something practical. The next step is going to be, how do we refine that process of making suggestions that are so true, the person can't help but accept them. So have a think about that. Let's take a 10-minute break. It's now just past 1:30. Let's start up again at just past 22, and we will reveal the answer of how to do that. Sound good?